full-time publishing since uh, 2002. We are at our heart a community news publishing organization with a few niche publications, including Lovin Life. Lovin Life, formerly Arizona's Senior World, is now in its 40, we're coming up on our 47th year in publishing. We also produce Lovin Life Expos, and we're excited. Actually, we have our first of our season coming up here in 3 weeks, which is crazy. I always feel like we have so much time for these things. Then all of a sudden it's November and it's like, oh, and it's November. But that's also, if you don't know Arizona, that's how Arizona works. It was 110 3 weeks ago and it's the 70s today. So go figure. But we are, at our, like I said, at our core, we're community news publishers. We are, big believers in the importance of both local and niche publishing. It's something that our audiences obviously look to us for the ability to find out what's going on in their community, be it a senior community, either in a very real sense of a place like, say, Sun City, or Sun Lakes here in Banning, California, or um, you know, uh, Pebble Creek in Arizona, right? Actual communities, or in the more esoteric sense, a senior community is just a group of people who have, similar interest, right? When they're looking for that. So we really, look to provide a wide range of content. It's also been interesting as I've worked with, this organization and have worked with a wide range of advertisers in this space. My parents have somehow managed to age into the demographic that I'm selling into, which it's been interesting to watch. And as we get into this topic, and we're going to talk today about selling traditional media in a digital world, and it was interesting is I think Gary, I don't know, it was a while back that we talked about this topic. I want to say we've been going back and forth for a while, and as I started thinking about it, it really was more than just the alternatives that people that we're selling to have, right? The digital alternatives, if you will, but really it's the who we're selling to as well. I'm sure we've all seen that, right? Some of the media buyers that we engage with have changed. Their mentality has changed. Um, I kid you not, I had an agency, and this was a national agency. Um, I had a media God bless her, at least it was junior media buyer, respond back. I asked her if they had a target CPM, and she asked me what a CPM was. And I just sat there and stared at my inbox for a while going, you work for an ad agency and you don't know what a CPM is. This is going to be a rough conversation. But it's something that I realized as going through that it's more than just the digital world of what we have as our competition, if you will. But it's really changing how we're talking to the people who we are trying to sell to. Obviously, I mean that's a huge need that we have. So that's just a bit about my background, though, and my history in it. Now, within our organization, as of earlier this year, we now publish in 4 states. We acquired 21 titles in Colorado from the Trust for Local News. They were a nonprofit. We took some of their publications back into the for-profit sector. We're helping manage some of their nonprofit titles. So that makes us now a 3 state publisher: Colorado, California, and obviously Arizona. And all three of those states, though, have great 55 plus markets. They are um, areas that we find that demographic is integrating more into all of our communities. And so we want to make sure we're still talking to them. We also find that it's a demographic that, regardless of the theme of the publication, advertisers want to reach that demo. And so we're going to talk a bit about that. Um, as we go in though, and I'm not I've never been, even when I handle our training, and that's one of the main things I do within our organization now. Um, I don't do a lot of um, whiteboard. I don't do a lot of slides. I like conversations. It's how I do my sales. It's how I do my training. So there's going to be a lot of time that I'm going to stop, ask for feedback, ask for your guys' input, and just kind of open up that conversation. But I feel like that's how, that marketplace of ideas is how we really can find where the opportunities are to address specific questions and opportunities that each of you have. But real quick question. So this is our first, not everybody's on video, so not everybody can participate on this part, but how many people like to buy stuff? Right? We all like to buy stuff, right? I mean, we're consumers at heart, right? At the end of the day, that's what I go into all of my sales meetings trying to remember. They call it retail therapy for a reason, right? We all like to buy stuff. Okay, but for those of you who say you like to buy stuff, how many people like to be sold? Nobody likes to be sold, right? It's funny. I've been blessed to be married now for coming up on our 26th year this May. And my wife is not in sales at all. In fact, she learned very quickly when she felt like I was selling her. I think most spouses do. It's funny, we talk about that a lot around the office. But one of the things we both hate is everybody hates the car buying process, right? Modern day car buying is awesome. We just got into an accident. We had a big pothole a while back. Um, Cars at the shop, just waiting for the news that's been told. Well, it definitely is going to be. We bought a new car, 100% on our phone. Didn't have to engage with a human being whatsoever. It was awesome. Like nobody's saying, "Oh, are you sure you don't want to buy the super duper warranty?" You just click a button that says no, and you move on to the next thing. Great, right? You still get the joy of buying. But anymore now, our buyers, the catch is when you're buying something you know you want, like a car or a TV or a house or a cabin. If it's something you want nowadays, you probably do a fair amount of research beforehand, right? That's where we're different. And this is something that in talking, in fact, I just onboarded a pair of new hires this week. And one of the first things that I told them was that you have to remember that we are not selling a product. At the end of the day, we are offering a service to these businesses that becomes a line item on their P&L. This is an investment in their business to help grow their business. And it's not something that they may even recognize that they need. They may not recognize the value in it, especially when we're selling the vaunted dying medium of print, right? And I'm going to talk a bit about that. For those of us that have to deal with talking with printers and things of that nature, right? I get my wife says I get evangelical when I talk about the real reason print's dying, and I refer to them as the hedge fund bros, and the it's amazing how quick you can make an industry seem like it's dying when you're buying up the presses and the paper mills and the places that the newsprint can get recycled and create artificial scarcity. But like I said, I get evangelical, so I'll get off my soapbox. All right, so let's talk about that. Like I said, people are not the mentality that people hate being sold has not changed. When we make a cold call, when we reach out to people, that gatekeeper that in the 24 years I've been selling, gatekeepers are the exact same as they've always been, right? They get told by somebody, hey, if somebody calls about advertising, just tell them we're not interested, right? That's the recurring theme I feel like we always hear. So that problem, that's not any different. What really has changed is how we can communicate and how we get through to these younger buyers, these buyers that have come into a world that was either digital first, some digital only, quite frankly. And they're now, and I don't know if you guys have seen this in your markets over the last 12 to 18 months in each of our markets, we've really seen this recognition that the idea of a media mix is starting to come back. People have finally realized that there's no silver bullet. This idea that, what was it, 4 years ago? Oh, yeah, we're on Facebook. We advertise on Facebook. And then last year it was, or 3 years ago, it was Snapchat. Then it was TikTok. Oh, well, now TikTok might get banned. So now we've got to be on, I don't know, YouTube or something, right? These marketers are finding out that they've got to keep hopping. And they're, as soon as they get an established identity on a brand, oh, no, they're not on that anymore. And so they're looking for ways that they can establish themselves in a marketplace. And media mix is starting to make its way back. And we are seeing along those lines. And again, Arizona is a bit of a unique marketplace in that we're all vagabonds in Arizona. Nobody's from here. And if you are from here, usually after about 3 years, you realize the heat sucks and so you leave. And so our daily died pretty quick here. I mean, the Arizona Republic audited statewide on Sunday, I think, is less than 65,000 right now, if you can believe that. Fifth largest metro area in the nation. And that's our one daily. It's crazy. We don't have any paid publications outside of that other than a couple of magazines. Everything else is free in our market. It's a very different market for us to communicate to, especially, I mean, on the senior housing side, right? That's the first thing these guys ask for. Well, what's your paid circ? We don't have any. Why? Because we eliminate barriers between our readers and our advertisers. And we're going to get into that some more too. So I'm laying a bit of groundwork here. Um, Today's advertisers have more channels, they have more data, and more people telling them how to spend their budget than ever. They're under constant pressure to prove performance, to show that every dollar can be tracked, analyzed, and attributed. Tracking, tracking, tracking. That's why everybody loved digital, right? Well, I can see how many people clicked on my ad. Okay, great. How many people clicked on it? What'd they do after that? Right? At the end of the day, people are finding that this data isn't the be all end all. Do you guys remember when banner ads were like the thing? Everybody wanted, hey, I want banner ads on your website. Give me digital impressions. When was the last time? I mean, we struggle to give them away sometimes. We don't want to have to worry about making the artwork. And they're so devalued now because people realize that a industry average of 0.2% as a click-through rate is actually terrible, right? It's a good medium for the right mix, but it's not a be all end all for all things. Marketers, though, are also realizing this is where we come in. Data and impressions and clicks, what that's not doing is it's not replacing connections in the marketplace. It's not replacing reputational equity, which is a term that we use. No matter how much spell check tries to tell me that reputational is not a word. It is. And what we have and what we've built and what you all have built with your publications is that reputational equity with your community, with the people who are reading it. And that's what we're offering. At the end of the day, that's the biggest thing, and what we're going to shape this discussion on is how we can transfer and leverage the reputational equity that you've built and communicate that to these buyers into a value proposition and show them how our media mix can provide them good value. Clicks aren't equaling customers. Trust and credibility still matter. In your individual, I'll give you a great example, and we're seeing this a lot in Arizona. It's, I don't know, like 36 or 38 states, cannabis is legal. Not sure if it's legal in your states. We have seen in our senior publication a lot of dispensaries starting to come in. One in Arizona, one of the highest grossing dispensaries in Arizona is actually in Sun City West. It's one of my favorite facts about Arizona. Um, but the reality is, for a long time, when we call the dispensaries, oh yeah, but we're online, we're on Weed Maps and we're on Leafly, right? Same thing with restaurants. We're on DoorDash, we're on Yelp. Yeah, you know the problem is, so is everybody else, right? Your home improvement clients. How many of you guys here? Oh yeah, well we're on Angie, or we're on whatever your local referral site is. I'm hearing from advertisers who are on Yelp, home service companies. I try to give Yelp more money. They just don't have any more leads to give me because there's too many of my competition there. So here's a great question, and I'm going to give you some questions to ask your advertisers. And this is one of the best questions that I have when somebody tells me they're on one of these marketplaces, so they don't need to do anything. But what do you do to rise above that noise, to stand out because everybody's on there? How do you differentiate yourself from your competition when everybody's on there? So that's question one. Question two is, and what are you doing to reach the community that isn't on there? We have you guys have, if you have casinos, do you have like a player magazine? Arizona, we have Arizona Player, right? Every state with tribal casinos has a casino magazine. Funny thing about Arizona Player, it's only available in the casinos. So we'll get casinos that'll tell us, oh, well, we already advertise in the casino magazine. Well, that's great. You've got the people who already gamble. What about the people who don't, right? They only see it that the not this always sounds like I'm speaking down about media buyers, and I don't mean to speak down on them. But unfortunately, there's a lot of media buyers who just this is what we were doing before, so this is what we're going to do now. And they as they get a new media buyer in, they just hand them the packet of here's what we're doing. And I don't know, that's what we've always done, so that's what we're going to keep doing, right? That's our challenge. Um, where we're at now, our traditional media mix is reclaiming its place. We're not getting the whole pie, right? As print. We maybe used to get 50% of the pie. We're trying to reclaim, a third of the pie, right? Our industry is not competing against digital anymore, though. We're complementing the mix, and that's what we have to remember. For those of you, and if you're not on camera, if you're just on mic, feel free to shout it out here. How many of you have just real simple a digital edition of your products available to your readers? And is it free available to them, or are you behind a paywall for that?
Free.
Free?
Great.
Most of us are free.
I've
Yeah, free.
heard one of the most surprising things I heard from a publisher once was that he thought it was crazy that we didn't have a paywall because somebody was just going to steal all of our advertisers. That was why he didn't offer a free digital edition. He was excluding a value to his readers because he was worried. And I didn't have the heart to tell him, dude, we're going to steal all your advertisers anyways. Your $2 a month fee doesn't stop us from taking your advertising. I mean, that's the reality, unfortunately. Nobody's surprised that the competition calls on our stuff, right? I mean, at the end of the day, we all expect that. Um, the the avoidance of the digital space isn't something that will prevent it from being there, right? We need to offer our advertisers what they feel is valuable. We're filling the space that digital can't. And what we'll get into here in a bit is making sure that we're offering those advertisers solutions that maybe they can get somewhere else, but if we can offer them in tandem with our solutions, then we become more valuable to them as a vendor. We call it increasing our adhesion or our stickiness to our advertiser. So if one element, let's say they're running an email campaign with us and they're getting really good results from that, but they're not sure if their print ad's working, that's okay because their whole campaign is valuable to them. It's not about one element. It's not about advertising vendor B versus A. It's about how we're doing together as a package. So when we talk about selling traditional media and digital world, like I said, what we're talking about is how to position what we do, our element, as an essential, credible complement to what they're doing, not an alternative to it. Um, I think it was, back in the Ziegler days, he used to call it value matching. We call it comparative value. And I get into competitive points of difference. One of the things I loved, the first thing I did 20 some odd years ago was we went to a sales training thing, and it was Zig Ziglar and a bunch of things. And the one thing that has stuck in my head since that day is about competitive points of difference. And I don't know if you've ever heard him say this, but competitive points of difference don't have to be better because better is subjective. They just have to be different. It's not up to us to unsell somebody on what they've bought before. It's to provide the value of what we do. We don't know the reasons why somebody buys something else, right? I have a publication that I've been told by several great advertisers that I'm dying to get into my books, that the only reason they run in it, one car dealership, I kid you not, runs in this terrible publication. Oh, well, listen, my body shop manager's wife is the salesperson for it, so I just buy that ad because he asked me to. Okay, well, I'm not going to beat myself up over it, the fact that I can't get you as an advertiser anymore because I don't have a relative who works for you. I mean, we can't be all things to all people, right? At the end of the day. So what we're going to unpack is how to connect with today's buyers, how to speak their language as best we can, because there's some things that every once in a while, you ever get asked a new acronym and you're just like, okay, I have to Google this because this is not something I'm familiar with, and I hope it's a newer term and not an older term. And luckily, they're mostly newer terms. And this is the important part. We're going to help them rediscover what we all know. The written word still matters, and the trust behind it still sells, and that's really important. Um, and if it looks like I've got my notes here up top, so if it looks like I'm looking up, um, so here's the big thing about print, and this is the first part to jump into. Print is the original form of media, right? We are the original advertising, the original permission-based form of media. But print wasn't always print. I think we think of print as newsprint on paper, right? The written word was chiseled into stone before it was ever printed on paper. So the idea that a website has to be considered fundamentally different from the written word or from print, well, it's just a different marketplace, right? It's a different evolution of it. Um, Print has to be a physical publication, though, has to be dealt with. And that's what we say around the office, right? If I come to your driveway or if I'm in your mailbox, you have to do something with it. If I'm a pop-up window that shows up on your screen, well, that's easy. I just close my window, I hit X, and I'm done. Uh, when it comes to a publication like ours, people are choosing to pick it up. We're being invited into their homes, their offices, their morning routines, whatever it may be. They spend time with it. You can't scroll past it. You can't just hit the skip button. It's tactile, it's trusted. It's people are physically choosing to bring us into their home. Our publications are our home deliveries opt-in. I don't know if any of you are audited and have opt-in subscribers where you have to monitor that. You have to allow them a chance to opt out. We use CVC. They also do some great reader surveys for us, but that gives us that just little bit of extra credibility behind what we do. Um, but you think about, that trust that we're building, especially in today's day and age. I saw a survey and I was actually trying to find it and it was killing me that I couldn't find it. But it actually split trust in news, and they actually had daily newspapers and then they had community newspapers segmented, and community newspapers trust level was insane. It was like 85% that hyper local news is trusted to be less biased and just tell the stories of what's going on. So leverage that trust that you have. And we're going to talk about some ways to do that. And some of these may be uncomfortable topics if you're an old school news person that believes in the separation. We used to refer to it as church and state, the separation of editorial and advertising. We're going to talk about that and the importance of that in today's day and age too. But print lives in the space of intent. When somebody reads the publication, they're present, they're engaged. It's not just I'm reading ESPN and all of a sudden I've got this pop-up ad for a concert that I want to go to, and it's pulling me out of what I'm there for, and I'm not. I can't tell you the last time, and I grew up. I'm in that weird generation that I didn't have the internet when I was young, but had it as a teenager in my house growing up, and it's been a part of my life. I can't tell you the last time I clicked on an ad on a website specifically and went and bought something from it. Like that's just not how my brain works. I can tell you the last time I got a targeted email and acted on it actually was to a concert coming up at the Greek that I wanted to buy tickets to. I can tell you the last time that I saw something that came to my house in a local publication that I pulled out a coupon for and we went and used. Um, so because if it's coming in my community, it's something I feel like I can trust. Um, Believe it or not, people don't trust the internet. I know it's weird, but we have a hard time trusting things we see online nowadays. So here's the question. This is this is this is an open floor, and I we can do hands or we can just if people want to shout it out, I'm okay with that too. When's the last time one of your advertisers told you a customer either mentioned seeing their print ad or cut it out and brought it in? Anybody have a recent story they can share? I'll start out. I'll share one. I've got a client, it's a med spa, and I learned actually this client was great. We do a best of reader poll. If you don't do one, you should definitely do one. If you want some tips on it, reach out to me directly after this. I'll give you guys my email address. Um, God bless him. I got a great education from this guy. Did not know that med spas and day spas were so fundamentally different until I tried to combine the categories of med spas and day spas. But this particular client runs a very simple ad, and it's a Botox and Restylane ad. Two different specials, but they got a coupon in it. Every time I go in, I love going into his office because they have a cork board and it looks like a voodoo board for old ads, but he's got a stick pin with every month with the coupons that they get from it. But where this advertiser is smarter than most is the first thing he says is, I know that half of those people that come in every single month. And even though it says new patient special, I don't care because they're coming into my business and they're showing me my ads are working. But I also know that less than a third of the people who come in from your ad bring in a coupon. I wish more advertisers knew that. How many people think you ever have that advertiser that thinks that everybody's going to bring in a coupon if they run a coupon? I have an advertiser that says, "Oh well, everybody, if it's a great offer, they'll bring it in." Let me tell you something. People in Pasadena, there are people in Scottsdale who wouldn't be caught dead using a coupon, right? I mean, it's just not what they do,
Oh,
right? So part of that's the education, right? But that's trust. If they're holding on to it. I had an advertiser in Lovin Life tell me one time they had somebody bring in an ad. It was like a year old. And they said, "Well, I pulled this out from last year. I just realized it's expired." I said, "Well, I'll take it." They literally ripped it out of the paper. That's trust, right? That's showing that one, they trust the business. Two, they trusted us. They saw something they wanted. They literally ripped it out of the paper, right? You can't do that online. I've never had anybody say, "Oh, somebody printed out your email and brought it in." Oh, somebody printed out the ad from the website and brought it in. That's the next time I hear that'll be the first time that I hear that, right? So that's the big thing to remember about what we have and how we can communicate that, that trust is to really just continue to say that, with the advertiser. That's where we're different. They choose to bring us into their homes. We are that permission-based media. Um, Talk about competitive points of difference and how difference doesn't have to be better. Um, Advertisers buy what they buy for their reasons. And so very rarely, and not that it doesn't have, because I'm sure we all deal with, right? We have that range of advertisers, right? That advertiser who's spending, a couple $100 a month, and that might be 50% of their ad budget. We have other advertisers who can spend 3 or 4 grand a month, and it's not going to put a dent in their ad budget, right? It, what we propose to them, it's not our job to say what they should or shouldn't be doing to replace what we're doing, right? Our job is to make that value proposition for them. And so when it comes to that new buyer, that buyer in the digital world, it's finding out what they value. It's finding out what they like about what they're doing, what they don't like about what they're doing, and then positioning what we do in a way that they see value in it in addition to what they're doing as a complement. Uh, you ever hear that person? Oh, well, we don't have a print budget. We don't have budget for print. You ever hear that one? Oh, we don't have any budget for print. Oh, that's great. That's great. I'm glad to hear that you don't have a budget. What do you have budget for then? If you've got a budget for something, if you don't have a budget for one thing, that means you do have a budget for something else. So what do you have a budget for? So when I love to answer every objection with an affirming question, right? That's an easy objection because we sell more than just print. Is there anybody who only sells their print product here? I would think not. We got one, just the one. Okay, Sarah, we can talk a bit about that. And I've got some things that I'll recommend here in a bit that where we can sell just your core product, but make it even more attractive. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But this is that key, and I said this earlier, and this is if there's one message I really want to get through is this one, because the more you think about it, the more it will impact your individual sales meetings, is that competitive points of difference don't have to be better, they just have to be different. And I know probably the fifth time I've said that, but it's I have it up on my monitor right now on a sticky. Um, the difference part of it is that we stand apart. Here's why you should look at doing us in addition to what you're doing. That's what we're really saying. Digital advertising is powerful. Yep, it's definitely an opportunity to get in front of people. It's measurable to an extent, right? Yes, I can tell you somebody looked at it. Well, if I go into somebody's house, I can tell you somebody looked at it. People live in the houses we deliver to, right? We know people are picking them up, so we can do that as well. It's immediate, which is good and bad, right? I always say the downside of digital versus say a permission-based product like what we do, like print. When somebody's choosing to pick us up, in that moment, they've decided they have time, right? They have the ability right now to commit time to looking at what's in front of them. When I see an email come through, anybody else do that? I did it this morning. You wake up, You get your shower, you're having your energy drink, your cup of coffee, and you open up your email and you go, not important, not important, not important, not important, archive, right? Same thing with web ads. I'm not opening up a website to go, well, let's see what these advertisers have to offer me on this ESPN website when I'm setting my fantasy roster. That's not what I'm there to do, right? Whereas when I'm picking up a product, and it's communicating that. Again, this is going to sound funny, and I get looks from my team when I say this, especially when I'm onboarding them. I assume that the people that I'm meeting with know nothing, and not in a mean way, not in a rude way. But I ask questions to establish what they know so that I can then backfill with my knowledge to support what I'm proposing to them. If I assume anything, I could miss a crucial step. I could miss a buying signal. I could miss a opportunity to close. I could miss an opportunity to add value by assuming they know something rather than asking a simple question to the advertiser. Um, the difference with digital and print, right? And I've got, it's so funny, I cleaned up my office and don't have a publication here with me. Um, that publication that sits on a desk, right? It's there, it's got to be dealt with. You can't just scroll by it. Um, it cuts through, it has to be dealt with. It's credible. The scarcity of it creates that value. There's no back page, right? There's no cover banners. There's no page threes. There's no being next to an article. There's nothing that makes it feel inherently different one banner ad to the next. You're just part of a rotation where you're going to maybe show up on somebody's screen and hope they see it before it rotates out the next 30 seconds away. So scarcity creates the value. If a client can be only one of a few select businesses that's represented in your publication, that carries weight, right? It's a seat on a plane. There's only 58 seats on this plane, and you can have one of them for your business. So think about, and this is up to each one of you individually, right? You know your market, you know your competition in that market. But really think about, and this is something that I would challenge each of you to either open up a Word doc or write it out. I'm a big fan of, it's funny because as much as I love technology, I also am a fan of Post-it notes and notepads. If you don't know the catharsis of having a to-do item on a notepad and being able to rip it off and crumble it up when it's done, it's one of the best feelings ever. Uh, but write down what makes you different. Don't worry about better. Just some of your biggest competitors. Here's why we're different. And put those somewhere where you can see it because those are your value propositions. That's what makes you stand out. And what makes you stand out from competitor A and competitor B, that's that could be very different one to another. Those are critical things in today's world with those buyers. Again, older buyers, I really believe, especially with the agency level, they used to be more dialed into the options that were in their market. I've got some agency clients in Phoenix that they knew what options were there for their clients without having to reach out to the publications. They were so dialed in, they had their research done. A newer buyer from that same agency can reach out to me today, and it's like starting over every single time. Oh, that publication's part of you guys too. Okay, can you send me that? And then a half hour later, I'll get an inquiry for the same client in the same space. And I'm like, I just sent this to you. Oh, I didn't realize that was the same market. So again, it comes on us to have to work a little bit harder to hold these people's hand through that, but that's where it gives us the opportunity to share that value. So again, I hate everybody hates homework, but that will pay off in spades. Think about what makes you different, not just then, and I would even get down to the direct competitor level, not just what makes you different than an e-blast or than banner ads. But, I'm different. My publication is different than the weekly that serves the area because we only focus on the active aging market. We're talking, we're not necessarily community news, we're niche to this age group, or we only serve this particular community. We deliver to every home and they come to, we're via mail in their driveway. So we'd be a great complement because we deliver differently. Getting into those very fine details really do matter to today's buyer because if you think about the way they're buying digital, what's one website, what's a difference of an impression on one website to the other, really, at the end of the day? Nothing, right? I mean, it really, there's no, an impression is an impression when it comes to a digital ad. Our difference is what we have. Um, at the end of the day, and just to close up this section, we don't win by being better than them at what they do, right? We win by being the only ones who do what we do and doing it well. Internally, we call that just owning our space, right? Focus on being great at what you do and sharing that value as a competitive difference to what your competition is doing. Gary, I got about 10 more minutes. Is that what I'm seeing here? Oh, I got you muted there,
You're
Gary.
muted, Gary.
Oh, he's still muted.
Okay, I'm
There
Nick.
you go.
I'm back. Could you open it up for questions? We got a
Yep,
quick.
absolutely. Yeah, let's do a quick question break. Couple other things we'll talk to. Yeah, questions so far?
Nobody has a question?
And,
Sarah, yeah, go ahead.
I
Uh-oh.
was curious as to how you market to car dealerships because so many people, if they want to buy a car, um, they do a lot of research, I think, online,
Mhm.
and I that's my impression is what car dealers uh, say why they don't necessarily do print.
Yeah, car dealerships are tricky, especially in with our format being monthly. And we have a couple that we found good success with by starting with their back end where their margins are best, which is on their service side. There's a couple of dealers here in the Arizona market, and this is probably not uncommon in a lot of markets, that do the service pickup and drop-offs, where they'll actually come to your house, pick up the car, bring you a loaner,
Mm,
take your car, get the service, and bring it back when it's ready. And so we had a rep who actually it was her, happened to be where she took her car, and started talking with the service manager. That was her in, and they started getting traffic that way. Service manager talked to the general manager and then started getting ads. They were not able to do, oh, by the way, co-op is back with some manufacturers on the car side. It's a little wonky. It's not like it used to be. Definitely not like it used to be.
mhm.
But they have specific offers, and for this particular it was a Buick dealership, and playing to the cliche Buick for seniors. But they actually had a specific financing offer for retirees and I think it was military vets and things of that nature that they leverage specifically. So instead of a monthly offer or incentive like car dealers usually have, this was just an ongoing program that they were able to leverage instead. So that's a great way, and it's not car dealers aren't the only ones that you can do that with, but looking, that's where service is where they make all their money. I mean, there's no shock, right? There's a ton of markup. I'm always amazed. I have a buddy who's a technician, and I go, the shop charges $280 an hour, but you don't live like you make $280 an hour when it comes to lifestyle. He goes, no, we don't make $280 an hour as a technician, that's for sure. But you look where their margin is, and that's an opportunity um, to get your foot in the door. Sometimes you start a little bit lower and work your way, up that way. I refer to that as having an advocate. I do that a lot with, especially on the senior housing side, where uh, so much of it's just gone to corporate now, where we used to be able to get things on a local level. And what I do is I use my local person as my advocate. I meet with them, I get them hyped up about it so that when they run it up the chain or have a discussion with corporate, they've already, they know it, they love it, and they help sell it for me. Same thing here with the car dealer. So it's not if you've got somebody who's got a big service division, service department's a big part of what they do, I would start talking with the service manager first and try to sell them on that topic.
Zach, what's your percentage of print sales compared to digital sales, either on websites or emails or newsletters or whatever else you do digital?
So, that's a great question. Percentage wise, we still definitely sell more on the print side, but we blend, and so we're big. um, we're big on creating packages that leverage both. So explain what that means. I talk a bit about it well in this section. So uh, you actually set me up without knowing you set me up, Gary. It's perfect. So traditional media and print doesn't necessarily mean it has to be offline, right? We've evolved, and with our company, we've done it a lot of ways. Our digital edition, we use Page Suite, which is an outfit out of the UK, for our digital editions. It makes all of the links active, so any websites are clickable in the ads. There's a few great ad units that are part of it. We send those out to our digital e-subscribers. So when somebody advertises with us in our core product, they get both the print and digital edition, and our circulation is a mixture of both our home delivery and our e-subscribers. CVC, part of why we're audited with them is they actually audit digital subscriber bases as well. And so we're able to maintain those numbers. We build packages that leverage our what we call our local offer or our email audience and our print and audience together. So Gary, as an example, if you were a client and we put a say a 6 month program together, we would offer you a half page ad in the publication, a monthly e-blast, 20,000 banner ads on our website, and maybe one time during your campaign we'd include a feature article on your business in an issue that made sense, and we put that together for say 11.95 a month, in a package like that. Uh, and so we would do that in finding out, through that needs analysis, whether or not they value that and whether or not they're interested in it. You may find some people, franchisees especially, they're not even allowed to advertise online because that's sort of corporate's space, if you will. Um, but I would say, we're probably, it's still probably 80/20, Gary, if I had to, company wide, we're still, but because we sell so much of it as a package, we sell very, if we're talking about print as a standalone, it's probably 50/50 at this point. But so much so is bundled. And so for the we don't have a print budget anymore. Oh, you know what? That's great because we have the special right now where we actually sell you these email and digital banners and give you the print for free. We believe in the print so much that I'm going to give you a print ad at no cost as part of this. So you can
Wow.
you can bundle. We had a sales guy, this was years, and when I say years ago, I'm talking 15, 16 years ago, that was doing that with clients when they were first saying, "Oh, we've shifted everything to digital." Oh, that's great. We've got a digital only program where we're giving you print for free. And he would just move the dollars around on the invoices and make it work, right? It's so you
That's
can talk
right.
to him in that way. Um, the reality is though, when we're talking with them about print versus digital, it's finding out what about digital they value and what they're already doing and what you offer that can complement it. The reality is, and as we get close to wrapping up, and I've got some other information I can send over. Gary, I want to send out, and if I could, um, I don't know if my contact info was in the email, but Gary, I can send you out my info to just send out to the group. And if anybody wants
Yes.
to reach out, I'm always willing to hop on a call.
Yes.
One important thing, though, and not everybody really understands this, and this is really critical to understand when it comes to addressable media. So with that, we're talking about, your targeted emails, targeted banner ads, and geofencing. The one really important thing to remember if you offer those to your advertisers, what we sell, what you sell, Diane, Susan, Sarah, Gary, anybody on this call, it's no different than what your local ABC affiliate is selling, what your local daily is selling, what Disney is selling, what anybody's selling. We're all selling the same programs. What really sets it apart is how close are you to the data? Because that means your data is fresher, right? The closer you get to it is digital targeting works the complete opposite way that capitalism should work. The closer you get to the data, meaning the data is better, the cheaper it is and the better it is. And it doesn't make any sense, but because you're paying less people to get their hands in it, unfortunately, you have to reach certain spend levels to get to those higher levels. So it's a bit of a challenge there. But that's why establishing your own digital opportunities is so important. I will tell you, as somebody who's sold a lot of targeted digital and a lot of local digital, I have seen more interest in the last 6 to 12 months in my local subscriber list than I have in any targeted email list. I have seen more interest in my local advertising banners than I have in any targeted banners because advertisers are getting that targeted stuff. If they're already buying it, they don't need it, if that makes sense, because they're getting it, targeted stuff they're already getting it. It's your local audience that nowadays they're all referring to as O&O, owned and operated. Your audience, your subscribers in email, your visitors to your website are an extension of your audience. They are coming to your website because of the trust that you have cultivated with them. I'll just say this in closing. Print media has always been and always will be about stewardship. We're caretakers of the relationship between the readers and the written word. And this is how Times Media Group, when we go in and acquire a publication, this is the umbrella that we go in under. We are the antithesis of what the hedge fund bros who are buying up the dailies are doing. We believe in the trust that whether you as the original publishers or if you've taken over for other publishers, that trust is one of the best assets that we have. When somebody picks up one of your publications or visits your site or opens your newsletter, they're doing that because they feel like you are a trustworthy source. They believe what you have shared matters, that it's credible, that it's created with intention. That's something that you should hold sacred. That's just something that you have that's valuable. So as stewards of that trust, it's your responsibility. It's our responsibility as sellers, as publishers, as advocates, whatever your role is, to honor that and to grow it and help our clients benefit from that without ever cheapening it. There are ways to do written content for your clients, and I'll make sure Gary has my email address so I can, if you guys are interested, I can send you some examples. Your advertisers are just as much stakeholders in the community as you are. They're just as much stakeholders. They have chosen to operate a business in your community. Telling that story to your community should not be something that's avoided because of some archaic belief that advertising and editorial can't cross over. Your advertisers want to reach your readers, and your readers want to hear from your advertisers because they trust that you're going to help tell that story. Whether the message appears on paper, on screen, in an inbox, the principle is the same. A connection built on trust will always outperform attention brought with noise. When someone asks you, how do you sell traditional media in a digital world? I simply tell them this: I don't. I sell trust, I sell relevance, I sell a connection through the medium that started all and still matters most. The written word has survived every technological revolution because it speaks to something timeless. Our job is to keep that voice strong, to keep it credible, to keep it human.
Well, thank you, Zac. You were very good. I learned a lot. I hope everybody did. Appreciate taking time to do that for us. Everyone, we're going to be starting
Thanks, Zach.
our,
Thank you.
our
Yeah, no
annual
problem.
meeting at about in 15 minutes from now. It's supposed to start now, but we're a few minutes over. And so again, thank you. If I do not have your email address, please sure to email it to me. You got my email address, hopefully. It's either gary@maturepublishers.com or nampa.gary@gmail.com, either one. So again, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Zac. You did a great
Yep.
presentation.
Thank you.